All right, looks like we'll keep with the small crowd today. Thank you all so much for being here today for the January 2023 Kentucky Monthly Climate Perspectives on Drought and Hydrologic Conditions. I'm Megan Shargrodsky. I'll be your moderator today. And this webinar series is hosted by the State Climate Office for Kentucky, and it is a division of the Kentucky Climate Center at Western Kentucky University. Today, we have Matt Dixon from the UK Ag Weather Center doing the presentation. So I will go ahead and hand it over to him.
I appreciate it, Megan. Hope everybody had an awesome holiday season and got through that very period of cold conditions we saw here near Christmas time. I know it impacted travel, so hopefully you all got to your celebration location all right. So I actually left 2 days early to beat that Arctic front and drove out to Oklahoma to see my brother's family, and I'm glad I did. So welcome to 2023. Moving on to the next slide. So again, same old information. Webinar series is presented by the Kentucky Climate Center at Western Kentucky, partnership with the National Integrated Drought Information System and in coordination with the Midwest Drought Early Warning System. So this comes together due to many people working together across the state of Kentucky, including the Mesonet. Of course, I'm at the Ag Weather Center. Chip Zimmer's at the Division of Water. The next scheduled webinar is February 2nd, 2023, Thursday, same time. Now, the groundhog will not be putting that webinar on, unfortunately. So, hopefully he does not see his shadow this year and we end winter early. So this webinar is being recorded. We are currently live on YouTube also. Just to start out, this picture in the background, I believe is from Boone County. It got cut off there at the bottom, but this is from that Arctic front that went through. Of course, we had rain the day before. Temperatures plummeted. I think it was 40+ degrees there in less than 24 hours. But with the Arctic front, it transitioned that precipitation over to snow. And mainly areas, I believe it was Western Kentucky up in the bluegrass, got a decent coating of snow. I saw some locations 3+ inches. And of course, with the very cold temperatures in place, this created very hazardous travel conditions. We had flash freeze conditions. And I believe it was 71 and 64 were actually shut down for a period of time. And this happened several years ago with I-65. If I can give you some advice moving forward this winter, pack an emergency supply kit in your car. You never know when these interstates are going to shut down, how long you're going to sit there. Do you have enough gas? So on and so forth. Especially with that extreme cold. If you lose gas, you lose heat in your car and you're stranded on a highway or interstate, very bad news. So think about putting another blanket in your car, maybe a coat, some water, maybe some non-perishable food items, but just in case, you never know. Even snow squalls, quick bursts of snow can create very hazardous conditions on an interstate. It doesn't take a major event like this. So anyways, outlined today, recent conditions. We'll look at that cold air event, the Arctic air event. We'll look at the rest of the month of December, which turned out a little drier than normal, looked better than what we saw the previous 3 months in fall, but it was actually warmer than normal outside of that cold Arctic air event we saw. So Ryan Sharp posted this photo over to the left on his December 2022 summary from the National Weather Service in Louisville. I thought it was pretty unique. We don't see white Christmases a lot here in the state of Kentucky. I remember Paducah saying for most of their stations, you got to really go back to 2010. Around here, I think 2020, we may have had an inch on the ground, but of course here you got a bush with the Christmas lights on it covered in snow. So nice little picture, something we don't see very often around here. So we were dry the second half of 2022, and that turned around in a big way this first week of January. We've had multiple rounds of precipitation go through. We are looking dry. It looks like through tomorrow before rain chances return on Saturday. Now, we're not looking at near the amount of precipitation we saw over the first half of this week, but nonetheless, the rain keeps on coming. So looking at this map here, the brunt of the precipitation this week fell across Western Kentucky and up into the bluegrass. There's a large region in that tan color, even that strip of orange and red through there. There's some locations that saw 4 or 5+ inches. And this time of year, maybe an inch across the week is about normal. So quite a bit of precipitation knocking into some of those long-term deficits Western Kentucky and Central Kentucky, and even up in the bluegrass, has seen the past several months. So a lot of rainfall. Eastern Kentucky, not so much, but still over a ½ inch here and there, inch here and there. But the state average for the 7-day period overall was 2.40 inches, which is about 1.5 inches above normal. Going on to the 30 days, most of the state, 5.5 inches was the average. Again, going out there to Western Kentucky, Central Kentucky, a little bit more. Those were the areas hit hardest by the drought this year. So it's nice to see some of those higher accumulations replenishing streams, replenishing soil moisture, you name it. So 6-7 inches out that way, a little less as you go out to Eastern Kentucky yet again. Going on to the 60-day period, a lot in that tan area, yellow area, 8 to 10 inches, 10 to 15 inches. This is going back into November 6th to January 4th, state average 8 inches, just slightly above normal. And then we go back 90 days, we're starting to see more of those deficits show up. Quite a bit of the state, you don't see a whole lot of change in the map between that 60 and 90-day period. This is going back into October, which is getting into the heart of those drought conditions we saw this fall. So looking at the departure from normal precipitation, we got 30-day departure from normal up here in the upper left. You see a lot of blue and purple on this map. This is a big change from what we've been looking at last month and the months prior. Those areas in blue, we're talking 2 to 3 inches above normal over the past month. Dark blue, those purple regions up to 4 to 5 inches above normal. So quite a bit of precipitation has fallen, especially this past week across Western Kentucky and up into the bluegrass region. We go over to the 60-day period. We don't see the amount of above normal precipitation like we see in that 30-day time frame, but still bluegrass region, north central Kentucky, still showing 2 to 4 inches above normal. The rest of the state close to normal. So overall, during the month of December, Kentucky averaged about 3.78 inches of precipitation. This is preliminary data. I got this from our website. This is roughly a ½ inch below normal. So officially, this is 4 straight months of below normal precipitation for Kentucky. It's been a while since we've seen that. And this has actually led to the state. Again, this is talking preliminary information, but it looks like we're going to run slightly below normal for 2022 in terms of precipitation because of this 4 months of below normal precipitation. Looking at the 90-day period, going back into October, you see those deficits show up across Western Kentucky, the Green River region, and 2 to 4 inches below normal. Some of those areas showing up in Eastern Kentucky, also Southeastern Kentucky. But, we've gotten to the winter months, evapotranspiration goes to a minimum. A lot of this precipitation hitting the ground is recharging our soil moisture, and these recent waves of rainfall have really knocked out some of those long-term deficits that we saw after our ninth driest fall on record. It's not all been rain. Again, we saw that snowfall event with that Arctic front pass through on the 23rd. This is the snowfall analysis from that day, looking at accumulations across the Ohio Valley region. And you look down to southeastern Kentucky, south central Kentucky, more or less than an inch. You get out into western Kentucky, bluegrass area, you're starting to see those totals top 1 to 2 inches. And then up there in extreme northern Kentucky into the bluegrass region, topping 3 to 4 inches in some locations. So this is a look at the Kentucky Mesonet Station in Clinton County. So the ground's pretty well covered. You see some of those hay bales out there. I took out the ag impact slide this month. I figure I just kind of talk about it as we go, but this Arctic air event, it created some issues in terms of livestock cold stress. We wanted to make sure there was plenty of hay available to our livestock, animals, you name it, out in the fields. You can see the round bales sitting out there in this field. I had some friends over in Mercer County. They didn't have much in the way of wind breaks, tree lines, or anything to stop those 30, 40 mile per hour winds coming through, lowering the wind chills close to -30 at times. So what they did is they made, quote unquote, a hay fortress to where the cattle could enter this, quote unquote, hay fortress, feed, and get some break from that wind. So I thought it was a good idea, and I think he stacked them too high. So from what I've been hearing, all the livestock have pretty well made it through this event decently. But I have the hay bales out here while I'm on the subject. The December summary of the crop report, USDA crop condition and progress report came out on Monday, and it's still showing hay supply at 27% poor to very poor, or short to very short, I'm sorry. So something to watch as we move forward. Now, the outlooks for January look pretty good, looking like we're going to run above normal. So that's good news, but our February's the past 2 years, we've been hit with numerous ice storms. We've been hit with some Arctic air events. So we're not out of the woods yet. Something to watch. So speaking of temperatures, this is a look at December temperatures, upper left-hand corner, 30-day Kentucky departure from normal temperatures from the Kentucky Mesonet. And you might look at this map and say, whoa, 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 whoa. We saw some of the coldest temperatures we've seen since 2015, Matt. We were definitely below normal in temperatures. Well, you know, prior to that event, we had numerous days during early and mid-December, and even in the month going into Christmas Eve and whatnot, we had high temperatures reach into the 50s and 60s, which is well above normal for this time of year. So that Arctic air event, it was pretty temporary when you're looking at it from the month as a whole. So that Arctic front came through on the 23rd. We were very cold on the 23rd. We had single or below zero minimum temperatures, only got into the single digits for highs that day. That led into a cold holiday weekend, but we got into that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday time frame, and we really started warming up. I was out in Oklahoma at the time. We got the same stuff as you all here in Kentucky, but I will say, you know, we got out of those single digits from Friday and got in the weekend. I think we were in the 20s out in Oklahoma. It almost felt like it should be t-shirt weather after we were below zero there at times. So I remember my professor back at Vincennes University when I started in college, he said, you always compare the weather to what it was like the day before. And that was exactly the case with this event. So looking at the average temperature departure from mean, I guess I kind of put them both on here. But the one on the rise from the Midwestern Regional Climate Center, again, showing very similar information. So I put a couple more images on here. I made this map for my ag weather update I'm working on. This is the extreme minimum temperatures from that event on December 23rd, 2022. This is comprised of Kentucky Mesnet data and ASOS stations, weather stations at airports. And you can see almost everyone across the state of Kentucky, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 stations across eastern Kentucky, all dropped well below zero. And for the large part, these were the coldest temperatures we've seen in Kentucky since 2015, when we saw temperatures plummet into the minus teens area. But that was whenever Richmond, Kentucky dropped to minus 32 at their local Mesnet station. But the biggest difference between this event and that event back in 2015 was, back in 2015, it was mainly a radiational cooling event. So we had clear skies in place. We had quite a bit of snow cover in place, and we lost all that heat to the atmosphere, and temperatures absolutely plummeted. But winds weren't relatively high like we saw with this event. In doing so, we saw wind chills in a large way surpass what we saw back in 2015. This is Megan created this from the Mesnet this morning, but this is the extreme wind chills we saw during that event. You see quite a few stations get down to the minus 30 range. I see minus 40 out here. I believe that is Harlan County. But it was extremely cold. You did not want to go outside at this time. But again, if your livestock had the hay, they typically did all right. So just an extreme cold air event we haven't seen in quite some time here in the state of Kentucky. Now, we are into 2023 now. I want to do a quick 2022 summary. This is a look at multi-sensor precipitation analysis from the National Weather Service. This is year-to-date observed precipitation. And December 30th, I was working on this back over break. December 31st, I don't think we saw hardly any precipitation. So this is pretty much it. A large portion of the state saw 40 to 60 inches of precipitation, somewhere around there. Ultimately, we ended up slightly below our average for the state of Kentucky, which I believe is a little over 50 inches now. We go on to departure from normal precipitation, near normal for the state, but we obviously saw differences going west to east. So there's some locations over in McCracken County, Western Kentucky region, well below normal. But then you get out to Eastern Kentucky, again, West July on record, push that to 12 to 16 inches above normal. So saw some variation across the state of Kentucky. Again, slightly below normal for the year. The first time we've seen that happen since 2017, when we were also slightly below normal. Looking at Kentucky monthly precipitation departures from January to December 2022. We started out the year really wet. It was our 12th wettest February on record, 2.56 inches above normal at that time. Then we got fairly dry heading through the spring months. We'll take that with planning. We got into June, got very dry. There were some areas across Western Kentucky that didn't see a drop for over, I believe it was 20 days. That led to our quote unquote first drought of the year. Then we got to July, 4th wettest July on record, 3.17 inches above normal. That led into a wet start to August, and then it started turning dry. So we had 4 straight months of below normal precipitation to end the year. Included within that was our 9th driest fall on record. Up there in the upper right-hand corner is a look at the Kentucky or the U.S. Drought Monitor here in Kentucky on November 8, 2022. almost the entirety of the state was seeing some sort of drought, whether it was a moderate drought in the tan color there or a severe drought. So soil moisture, stream flows all took a major hit, very impactful on pastures across the state. And that concluded 2022 in terms of precipitation. Just moving on quickly to temperatures. We had our ups and downs throughout the year, but ultimately we ran very close to normal, maybe slightly above normal across the state of Kentucky. Now, I say we had our ups and downs. I wanted to put this back into this bar graph. So we started off January 2022, very cold. And then we got into February and March. We ran pretty warm, got an earlier start to spring there in March. Then we saw some of those frost and freeze events in April. And then May, June, July, pretty warm for our summer standards here in the state of Kentucky, dropping below normal, very cold in October, 2.6 degrees below our average during that month. And then November, December ran close to normal despite those ups and downs. Now, you look there, June and July, pretty warm across the state. I wanted to transition to this map once again. This was our extreme minimum temperatures that happened on December 23rd. Everyone pretty much below zero. If we go back, this is the heat indices on July 20th, 2022. So this map is air temperatures, taking into account relative humidity at the same point. And we had heat indices top 118 up there in, was it Union County, Henderson County? And I mean, it was well over 100. So we were all sweating at that point. But just goes to show you, I mean, we had over 100-degree swing in extreme temperatures if we're looking at the warm side of it and the cold side of it. So quite the spectrum here in Kentucky this year. And I should say this is heat index. We did have temperatures go over 100 at this point. So look at soil moisture. Wet start to the month of January has very much improved conditions across the state. This is a look at the soil moisture profile going back 6 months for Marshall County in upper left-hand corner, Union County in the upper right, Warren County at the bottom there. Now, going into August, we were looking pretty good from our wet month of July. And this is the same case across all the stations. Then we got into the fall months. You see those soil profiles start dropping off, especially that 2-inch and 4-inch soil probes. They really drop off going into the end of October, start in November for each of these. Then we get into November, December time period, and we start seeing some more precipitation events, especially December. Again, we average over 3 inches for the month, not much ET at that time of year. So it's good to see in terms of soil moisture. Now we're going into January. We're looking a lot better than where we were when we started December and going back into November. Now, Chip, I know you're on the call. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you want to talk about these stream flows a little bit? I pulled up the 7-day average here across the state. It looks like out Western Kentucky, Central Kentucky, we are still seeing much above normal stream flows from that wet event we saw early in the month, but still struggling out in Eastern Kentucky. Do you want to add any info on that?
Yeah, I think it's just a case of they didn't get that big rainfall. And really this time of year, we're starting to get to that point where you have stream flow averages are starting to really ramp up. So if you go a week or two without significant rain, which they haven't, or they have, you start seeing those deficits. And there's still plenty of water in the streams. It's just a statistical percentile issue. And we get one decent rain event coming in, and that'll that'll wipe it out. So it's when we start seeing this, if we start seeing this, coupled with precipitation deficits and stuff, that's when we start to get concerned. But that really isn't the case right now.
Okay. Yeah, great info. Yeah. Earlier we talked about precipitation the past month, and Eastern Kentucky did miss out on those higher accumulations compared to Western Kentucky and up into the Bluegrass. So, so going on to the U.S. Drought Monitor, Chip leads this state group putting together this map on a weekly basis, and I wanted to kind of do some comparisons right now. This is the map as of the end of November. So almost everybody across the state seeing some sort of moderate to severe drought. And with the precipitation recently, guys, very good news. Almost the entire of the state is almost blank now. We're looking a lot better than where we were over a month ago. So drought conditions are essentially non-existent now. We'll look at the state of Kentucky itself here, another slide. But if I keep switching back, there's been quite a bit of improvement across the entire Midwest region. Great Plains, still seeing that drought out there, but we've seen quite a bit of improvement on this U.S. Drought Monitor in the past month. Again, this is the end of November, state of Kentucky, 87% of the state in a moderate or severe drought. We look at now, none of the state is experiencing drought conditions. So again, we dropped almost 88% in terms of drought coverage in a month. Only some areas of abnormally dry conditions remain there in the Purchase region, Pennyrile, and then up there into northern Kentucky. Now, this was the 8-week U.S. Drought Monitor class change as of last month, the end of November. We were looking bad after the fall season. I changed this map. We want to see green, and we see green. We see green across a large portion of the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley. So this is what we want to see. Hopefully it stays this way as we go into the spring months. Now, just real quick, this has typically happened the past several years. Our winters have been pretty wet, and this is our chance to get caught up. So moving on to severe weather, that we had all that cold air on December 23rd come through the area. We had the Arctic air produce snowfall across the region. So you see those bouts of heavy rain, maybe some heavy snow here and there, but you also see those green icons show up, signaling flash floods across the region. That was the case this past week. We had quite a bit of rainfall come down in a short period of time. I posted this link from Twitter over here to the right, showing the flash flood warnings at the time that Tuesday. And then this was posted by Alexis Schmidt. Hope I'm saying that name correct. But this was Jesse Skaggs Road over in Leachfield, Kentucky. There's a saying from the National Weather Service: you're under a flash flood warning, you encounter a flooded road, turn around, don't drown. And this is exactly the case. We tell you to take an alternative route. If you see a flooded road, you may or may not know the condition of that road underneath. Of course, this water is kicking up a lot of mud. It's hard to see what's underneath that moving water. Sometimes it's hard to see how fast it's moving. So always turn around, take an alternative route. This is a perfect example of a washed out road. Why the National Weather Service is saying turn around, don't drown. Now look moving to the forecast real quick. Look at the next 7 days. We're looking at some precipitation. Could see a mix of precipitation this weekend. There is isolated to scattered rain, snow showers in place. We see another event, looks like next Tuesday, but ultimately most of the precipitation occurred earlier this week, maybe a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch here and there. Nothing like we saw Monday, Tuesday time frame. I do want to point out in the West, they've been getting hammered with precipitation recently. It looks like that's going to continue. I'm sure they won't mind it with the long-term drought conditions they've seen out there. But just to point out, guys, those yellow colors, that's 10 to 15 plus inches in a 7-day time frame. So a lot of precipitation within a short period of time. Look at the 6 to 10 day outlooks. If you're a fan of warmer air, I know it's cooled down here to end the work week, but we're going to start going in the upward trajectory this weekend. Again, it looks like we'll have highs back in the 50s eventually, but this is showing above normal temperatures next week, January 10th to 14th time frame. Darker shades mean higher confidence by the forecasters that we're going to see above normal temperatures. So it's pretty much a lock. We're going to see above normal temperatures, especially across Western Kentucky. But it's a really good chance across the entire state. We go to the 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, near to above normal precipitation. 8 to 14 day, you see that hot spot for above normal precipitation just to our northwest of Kentucky, but still our chances are looking really solid. Warmer air is going to hold out through mid-January. And then we're starting to see some higher confidence in above normal precipitation during that mid-January time frame. So the month of January as a whole, above normal temperatures, I think this is leaning more so on what we've already seen here to start January. It was warmer than normal in a large way. Outlooks again, the next 2 weeks are pointing toward warmer conditions. So pretty good bet. We'll probably end January with above normal temperatures in place. And we do have somewhat of a hot spot for above normal precipitation over the state of Kentucky. And you got to think, we already saw 5+ inches across Western Kentucky. So we're already looking at above normal precipitation for the month for some of those locations across the state. So looking a little farther out, we have seen a La Nina for what is now 3 years in a row. La Nina typically brings us wetter conditions during the winter months here in Kentucky. It looks like that's going to hold out into December, January, February. And then it's going to start fading as we get into the spring and into next fall. So this will be something we're going to watch. You see those odds for El Nino actually increase as we get into that July, August, September timeframe. And the key here is La Nina typically brings us wetter conditions during the winter months here in the state of Kentucky. El Nino is the exact opposite. It typically brings us drier conditions. Now, it's been a while since we've seen El Nino. We are a long ways out until next winter. So we're going to take this with a grain of salt, but just something to kind of keep in the back of your head. Seasonal outlook largely is based on this La Nina pattern. So above normal precipitation here in the Ohio Valley, and a little better odds for above normal temperatures here in the state of Kentucky. Stream flow outlook for January 2023, looking awesome. All the near normal colors there in green. We go to the U.S. seasonal drought outlook, again, looking awesome. Nothing much to add here in the state of Kentucky. It looks like the drought is going to persist out in the Western Corn Belt region, Kansas, Nebraska area, going into Western Iowa. But here in the Eastern Corn Belt, looking pretty good. There's places in Indiana, Illinois that are still experiencing drought conditions, but drought removal is likely in that area. Wildfire potential, not bad. Just looking down there in the southeast, northeastern Florida, southeastern Georgia, and South Texas. So you add in the outlooks, we're looking pretty decent across the state of Kentucky, a lot better than where we were at the start of December. So Summary, again, below normal precipitation for a 4 straight month. State precipitation average below normal for the year, first time since 2017. December, coldest temperatures we've seen probably since 2015 across the area. But again, we ended the month above normal, balanced by the warmer temperatures we saw in early December and the end of December. Spatial coverage of drought is basically non-existent now, dropped over 80% in a month. And again, a favorable forecast and outlooks ahead, and not expecting any drought conditions to redevelop anytime soon. I'm sure that's good news to Chip, the folks over at the Division of Water, maybe get a little bit of break from these drought conditions. So that's what I got. Our next scheduled webinar is February 2nd, 2023. Again, Groundhog's Day, same time. You have all of our contact information there. Again, a link to the Kentucky Drought and Hydrologic Impact Reporter. It's that reporter. It's not all about drought. We want to know if you're getting flooded. So maybe the ground's soaked. So let us know on that. Now, I want to close up saying, unfortunately, we're losing someone actually tomorrow, and that is Megan Shargorotsky. So I want to give her a shout out. She's been absolutely fantastic to work with the past, several years. I'm going to let Megan speak. You've been here for quite a while, but she's taken a job in Tennessee. She's going to become the new Tennessee state meteorologist. So I'm going to send it to you, Megan. I will say, I hope you don't become a Tennessee Volunteer fan. So keep it in Kentucky. So sent to you.
All right, thanks, Matt. So I don't plan on becoming a Tennessee Volunteer fan, so you have me there. But I just wanted to have an opportunity to say thank you to everybody as well for sticking through with this webinar. I know that we've had a few changes over the past couple of years, and I see this as an opportunity for this group to kind of refresh what they're doing and see what new things can be done. So thank you for listening in. And I know that Chip and Jerry and Matt will have a great time with you. And hopefully there's not too much drought to talk about this year. It would be nice to have a little bit of relief, but they'll continue keeping you posted.
Now, Megan, what does it mean if you take off for Tennessee and we don't have drought conditions all year?
Well, maybe it was me. Maybe it's been me all along. I don't know.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So if there are any questions with regard to the webinar today, Matt did a great job going over everything, as well as the kind of brief review of what happened in late 2022. Happy to answer questions or anything that comes up.
I see Eric said, did we break any December low temperature records? That's an awesome question. I do not have that information on me right now. Megan, Jerry, Chip, I don't know if any of you have information on that.
I wish I did. I don't have that handy. I don't. We may have broken some daily records, but even there, I'd have to go back and look. It was close, but I didn't hear that we broke any.
So
yeah.
I just pulled up Louisville's December 22 summary, and I would assume those were daily minimums broken, but they mention here the 23rd, the cold max temperature of 6 degrees at Bowling Green. So that's a record. And then the cold max temperature is 7 degrees at Louisville.
Yeah, that's the one record that may have broken was the minimum high.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But we had some low temps back in the 80s that I think probably hold the records for the minimum.
Gotcha. Well, I'm glad I wasn't here in the 80s.
Thanks, Shane. Yeah, I see that December 23rd, 1989, at least for Bowling Green. Oh, and that was cold max. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'll be happy if we don't see any more of that Arctic air this year. So. Anybody else? All right, guys, I guess we'll end it there. Was someone going to speak?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wanted to input a little bit on, give a little perspective on fruit position, fruit impact due to the cold weather. Just here in Princeton, I don't know how it might be across the rest of the state, but it looks like we had some substantial losses to peach buds here in Princeton, just from the cold air. Had about 6% survival peach buds due to a peach from the assessment. Just for perspective, though, that still means we might have the potential of a partial crop. You can generally lose about lose 90% of the buds and still have a full crop, but still have a long way to go yet. And in terms of temperature, it wasn't too terribly cold for the buds. It was actually more the rapid drop from fairly warm temperatures the day before, high 46 and down to -6 in Princeton. And water just couldn't move out of the buds quick enough. That's why we saw that response. So other fruits, I don't have a handle on those, but it's possible with erect thornless blackberries, there's some crop loss there because old line is that generally for each degree below zero, have a 10% loss for every degree below zero there. If there's any rabbit eye growers out there for blueberries, likely to see some crop loss there because they're often damaged below zero. And though they are hardy down to -10, those are the reports, but they're often damaged below zero. And just started thinking about grapes here. Vinifera wine grape growers have likely lost a crop there, especially up in central northern Kentucky. Hybrids on the variety, and probably not much damage to Labrusca, and might be some damage to apples, but I don't expect it to be too much.
That's excellent information, Daniel. I appreciate that. Just FYI to everyone, Daniel Becker, he's our extension associate for vegetables and fruit out at Princeton, Kentucky. So Daniel, were you seeing these problems back in 2015 with that extreme cold air event, or was it like you were saying?
For that, it was because I had a partial crop on blackberries that year, even though in Princeton it got down to -13.
Yeah.
Before then, the temperatures were in the I've got my notes here, but the temperatures were in the low 30s with that overnight, overnight temperatures in the low teens. So for a week before that, so there was plenty of opportunity for those buds to, those plants to harden off. In this case, what was the most damaging was the rapid drop in temperatures from fairly warm prior to that. Again, just not enough time for those for water to move out of those cells.
Yeah.
Not enough time for water to move out of the cells. They burst when they freeze, and that's where you get bud damage, flower bud damage.
Essentially, that flash freeze was the biggest problem. Sounds like so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we get these strong cold fronts come through every once in a while, but it seems like it's been a long time since we saw something of this magnitude. So, especially with this kind of cold, but yeah.
But that's all from my end, unless anyone else has perspective on this.
Do we have correlations of temperature and humidity with INSO and NAO events for the state? Might make for an interesting master study. They felt that cold front as far south as Cancun. Yep. I will say, I remember seeing some snowflakes down there at one of those Florida bowl games that week, but do we have correlations of temperature and humidity with the two teleconnections? Good master study. So this would be WKU territory down there. We don't have a meteorology program or climatology program up here at UK. Thoughts, Jerry?
Yeah, there has been some work done looking at the impacts of INSO and NAO on Kentucky's climate, and it's pretty varied, but there are some signal there. If you go further north or south, the signals get a little stronger. I think the signal is stronger for precip and humidity than it is necessarily temperature, but like La Nina, I mean, typically, like you said, we have generally wetter conditions during the winter time and drier during El Nino, but that doesn't always hold. So
yeah,
there is a lot of variability in the signal, but and of course, further southeast you go, the warmer it is for the INSO events. But there has been probably some master studies done, but there's probably always room for more.
So I was actually reading I saw this link yesterday, Eric. This is from climate.gov, and you might find it interesting. I need to read through it more so, but yeah, what are teleconnections connecting Earth's climate patterns via global information superhighways? So you might check out that link. I myself need to read through it also. So looks like she did an awesome job putting it together. Anybody else? All right. Well, appreciate you all joining this month. Again, we'll be back on Groundhog's Day in February.